Midnight, midnight knitting. You know, you've been there, you've done it. Now, one reason I do midnight knitting is because it's relaxing and there are no distractions. Actually, I kind of have to speak quietly because Stanley's already in bed. Now, you might think, no distractions. Well, the thing is, like, I know I don't have little kids running around saying, Mommy, where's this? Can you help me with that? But I do have a husband who occasionally drops by and interrupts my knitting. And it's not too bad if you're just doing what you call vanilla knitting, where you're just knitting along and not really counting and paying attention. But this is a problem if you're counting. I mean, this is what he does during the day. Watch this.
Do you know what the laundry soap is?
In the closet?
And by the way, did you pick up any coffee this week?
No. I thought you were doing it. And then this happens. Oh, I lost my count. So I talked to my sister about my midnight knitting, and I said, sometimes I'm up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying not to be, and she says she gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do crafting. I think maybe genetically we're entwined. Anyway, it's a nice, quiet, just non-distracting time to knit. And that's what I'm doing. Midnight knitting. Tell me about your experience. Have you ever been knitting and you're going along with your yarn and then suddenly you see this knot show up? And it's what we might call a factory knot. And you might be concerned about it, but really it's not going to come undone. So here is a technique to create that factory knot yourself. It's a way of joining your wool together. So what I do is I take the two ends of the yarn and I simply tie a knot, one side and then the other. And then when you've got two knots, you just pull each end of the yarn. The two knots come together, kind of like magic, and it's not going to come undone, just the way it's done. And then what I do is I usually cut off the strands, so then I don't have ends in my garment to weave in later on. I find that weaving in an end when you've joined the wool, and there's various ways of doing it, that it creates a bit of a bulk where you've woven in that end. Whereas this knot doesn't come undone, doesn't show up, and there you go. Now watch. I think I'm going to pull this really, really, really tight, 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 pull, 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 pull. I actually managed to break the yarn. But that's not going to happen when you're wearing your garment. So I'm going to show you how I do this again. First, get rid of that knot. So it's like I do a cross of the yarns. I pull up one, and the first one's usually the easiest to do. Sorry, it's a little bit off camera there. And you just tie a knot. Then you bring the other yarn and bring it up, lift it over, and then at that point you create a loop and tie your knot. Put your thread through. There we go. Tie the knot. Then you take your two long ends and just pull those little knots together. And you can pull it nice and tight. And like I said, as I'm knitting along, it's at this point then I clip the end so I don't have to go over my garment and look for them later on. And then you just sort of knit seamlessly along. If you've ever tried this, let me know. I know I'm not the only one. And it's a good strong knot. and you barely notice it. You'd have to look for them in your garment. So there you go, tying a knot, joining yarn.